I had no idea what I was going to write when I sat down last night. Not a clue, not a single one. And this is supposed to be the second talk about the sacred symbol of one or oneness. When I started to write, I had very, very little foundation to rest anything upon. If you think of the foundation of a building as a parallel for the foundation of this sermon, what I had last night was a big hole and a brick. Just one. And while you wouldn't do well as a contractor this way, you might do very well as a teacher of spiritual principles. The idea of becoming empty or free, like the hole that I started this talk with, is a foundational teaching across many, many faith traditions and from countless teachers. It's the idea that we must detach from the stuff of this world that tells you it's so important, so that your quiet self can become loud enough for you to hear, and you can move through this world as the embodiment of divinity. And I'm going to put a list over there on the screen of some of the various faith traditions in which this is practiced. And I was going to put in how they go about it, but it would have been 30 slides. So you got the information, Google it, okay? Check those out if you want to take a picture, because each faith tradition does it differently, yet all are very, very beautiful. And you would really rather that I teach principles, right, rather than dogma. So I'm gonna keep doing what I'm doing here. You check that out there. While we are here talking about nearly empty hands and holes to fill, I want to bring up something that you may have noticed Paul talking about earlier today, and this is something that's been happening in the world lately because it's Pride Month. And there are mixed opinions about celebrating Pride. But the thing is, and I should warn you here that I am about to be quite direct, and some might say blunt. Your opinion, regardless of what it is, doesn't matter to the facts. The facts are that there are entire groups of people who have not only been marginalized, but they've been targeted, tricked, lured, and abused since time immemorial. People who dress differently than society has decided is right. People who love differently than society has decided is right. People who have struggled to fit the molds society has laid out for us to fill, and have found time and time again that there isn't a mold for them to fit into. And this is a month where we are allowed to stand in our own bodies, wearing our own skins, and say, this is who I am. This is how I love. This is how I look when I feel most like myself. And whether you like it or not, I am proud to be me. I'm proud to celebrate myself in a climate of acceptance, which is offered for only a few short weeks of the year. And so before I go any further, I want to do something which is really meaningful to me, and hopefully to others here and online. First, I should explain here that as with many words that have been used as slurs and insults, folks have reclaimed the word queer and made it empowering. So today, and each Sunday of this month, I will light a candle for those members of our queer community who are no longer with us, or who still don't feel safe being themselves. Those who have never been able to feel a moment of pride for who they were or are. Those whose cries have gone unheard and uncared for, and those who were cast out of homes, entire communities, and ultimately the world, simply for being. May I have a moment of silence for those whose rainbow-colored bricks paved the queer path of empowerment that we get to walk upon this month? Thank you. Yesterday, Reverend Paul and that amazing nimble partner that I can't see still, Mike, manned the SAC booth at the Glendora Pride Festival at Finkbeiner Park, and they had a wonderful time, I'm told. Now, how many of you here have been to a Pride event? A couple. There's a few. Okay, if you're not familiar, there is something quite common and at these events, and it is free mom hugs. So moms stand by to embrace any child who needs to feel loved, seen, heard, and accepted. And if this sounds silly to you or seems like something lighthearted, I'll say that while it is lighthearted, it's also very, very serious. Thanks to Pride pioneers, according to the Human Rights Campaign, 75% of young people in the community now report that they have at least one supportive family member. Yet, nearly half experience some degree of parental rejection. The sad fact is that today, 40 to 46% of people in the LGBT community face outright estrangement or abuse from families and close friends. So free mom hugs are joyful and beautiful, but they're really, really, really important. And my Mike got one of those hugs yesterday, and this mom, she understood the assignment. Mid-hug, she quietly says, "Have you been eating your vegetables?" And then, "Did you bring a sweater with you? It might be chilly later." And later on, she passed by their booth and she said hi, and Mike said, "Oh, just so you know, I've been keeping hydrated. I had 2 snow cones." And she stopped and said, "That is something I should have reminded you, so good job." I think her free mom hugs were maybe laced with a little bit of magic. Don't you? That whole scenario, everything I've said up to this point, actually points to the single brick that I had when I stood in that hole I was telling you about when I started talking. So let me back up and come at this from another angle. How many of you are animal lovers? Yeah? Shout out your favorite animal.
Life.
Nice. Okay, so fishes? Jellyfish. Yeah. So we all have love for other amazing creatures on this big blue marble that we roll around on. So, okay, if I looked out that window and I told you that this dog just walked into the parking lot all alone, how many of you wouldn't hesitate to go out and try and help the little one wandering in all by itself? Yeah, a whole bunch of people would. Okay, and how about this one? How many of you would go out and help that dog if it walked in the driveway all by itself? Yeah, whole lot of people. How about this one? Would you still help? Yeah? And this one? Yeah? Wow, it even got a bigger reaction of help. I had a feeling that most of you would be on board with helping any furry little one who stumbled across your path in need. Now, what if the animal was clearly sick? Would you still help? A couple of weeks ago, while I was at my parents' house, a thing happened. Things do happen around me frequently. Most of you here have already heard about all of the stray cats in the neighborhood, all of the stray cats in the neighborhood that my parents feed. and also about the four litters of kittens that they had this year. And these cats that they feed, they're really remarkable. Most of them have learned to trust me. There are a couple of holdouts. So they wait for me by the porch most days to get their cuddles, and I give those cuddles liberally every time, even though they make it hard for me to breathe. So I have developed some affection for these furry little purr machines. Well, the other morning, it was 2 Mondays ago, I was sitting in the living room when we heard that telltale screech of a cat fight. Y'all know it, right? So we heard that, and my mom goes, because she's, Mama Bear happened. Mama Cat? No. So she's looking at me concerned, and I told her I'd go check if it happened again, because it just screeched and then stopped. And 5-10 minutes later, the screech was back. So I got up and I walked all the way around to the back of the house, to the patio, which is behind their house. They have an enclosed-ish patio in the back, which is to say that there are walls, like low brick walls, and there are frames for screens, but the screens blew away a long time ago, so it's really, really an interesting space. And as I came around the corner there, I saw that little black and white one I've talked about that I call itty bitty spitty one. He went out the window real quick as I came up, and there sat right in front of me this great big orange tabby, who is the father of all of those litters of kittens. And he sat there. He's very skittish. He's very afraid of people, and we have a tenuous friendship. I am the first person with whom he has had that in as long as my mom can remember. So I'm standing there, and he's sitting in this chair. He's like 10, 12 feet away from me. And between him and me, there were a bunch of like storage boxes and stuff like that. And so I looked at him and I said, what was all that about? Right? Why are you picking on itty bitty? And I did not expect him to answer, so rest assured. But that wasn't going to stop me asking. And I noticed how calm he was, and he's usually not. He was almost serious. He looked into my eyes very, very directly, which is a little bit strange. Again, he is a scaredy cat. And as he's staring at me, he then looked down to just in front of me, and he blinked slowly and then looked back up at me. And I hadn't noticed that sitting on top, you know the bags when you buy a comforter for your bed and it has that zippered bag? There was one of those on top of one of the bins. Filthy, covered in dust, because nobody goes out there. And on this little bag was this very, very tiny and very sick kitten. I hadn't noticed that it was sitting there, and I looked at the big orange guy, and I said, okay, I'll help. And I picked up this palm-sized little one, I mean, this big, and I carried it inside. And when I say that it was tiny, I'm talking maybe 2 weeks old. Okay, both eyes were completely glued shut with infection. So I cupped it in my hands and I held it close to my chest while I used a damp cloth to really gently, carefully clean its eyes. And it was so small and so still, I could feel every bone in its little body. It probably couldn't see to get to mom and nurse. After a little while, I was able to get one eye opened, and it sat in my hand limply and stared at me with these great big eyes, very, very still, almost in awe. And I realized that I might have been the first thing that this baby had ever seen. It stared at me like that for well over an hour. My mom said, it looks like it's thinking, are you God? And then she said, you can take it home and take care of it, can't you? I can't do it with everything I have to do. The kitten replied by opening its little tiny mouth wide for several seconds. Nothing, right? Silence. And then all of a sudden, So I said, okay, but you have to talk to Mike, not me, because I know better. He will not be happy about this. She did, and he wasn't happy. But the kitten is at our house, getting healthier every day, and she is now named Squeak. Until she's all healthy and one of you adopts her. But she made me think about how we respond to animals in need. I know that there are a great many of you here in person and perhaps watching online you don't count insects and arachnids and cold-blooded animals and wee little invasive garden critters on that list of animals that you're willing to help. But you'll still try to help the ones who don't fit those categories, right? Or the ones that you can tell have the cute ones. Maybe the ones that you can tell have gone through something tough and they need someone to care enough to make their lives better. I hear stories every day, swiping on those reels, about how patient people are with pets who've been abused or abandoned. And some folks have even made it their whole life mission to help these animals find loving homes again. How easy it is for us to accept animals, to show concern and love. And if we're not comfortable handling the animal, most of us are willing to help search for someone who can help, or maybe donate some money for food and stuff, right? But what about people? If I looked out that window and I said that this person walked into the driveway all by themselves looking lost, how many of you would get up to go help? What about this person? Would you get up and help? Okay. What about this person? Who would go? What about this one? Most of us will say, yes, I would definitely help. But if we are being totally honest with ourselves, that might be harder to do if it actually happened in real life. Why is that, do you think? I think our beliefs, our history, the stories about the world that we carry in our minds that have alarm bells attached to them, I think they get in our way. Never mind the dog that bites or the cat that scratches. We'll find a way to help them. But the person? This one. You think, oh, that's a lost child. We need to find their parents. We'd run right out there, right? This one. That kid's still a bit young to be out alone. How many of you would be like, I gotta go check on that? Right? How about this one? How many of you would think, oh, I hope they're okay. I'll keep an eye on them just in case they need some help. How many of you would do that? Yeah? This one. What's the thought there? This one. This one. This one. Jesus said, I stood in the midst of the world, and in flesh I appeared to them. I found them all intoxicated, and none of them thirsty. My soul mourns for the children of humanity, for they are blind in their hearts and do not see. We see in the faces of the world that which we've chosen to believe. We see pain and we answer according to the history we have archived. But like Osho said, What is history? Just cuttings from newspapers of ancient times. If you go and help somebody, no newspaper is going to publish the story. You go and kill somebody, and all the newspapers are full of it. And what is your history except these people who've been a nuisance, who've left wounds on human consciousness? This you call history? You have only this garbage in your mind. You must let go of all of the fear stories which spring up in mourning if you wish to know and to actually experience what oneness is. You must become empty. Free yourself from all of the beliefs that you place in the path between you and the one who most needs you. And then you answer that need. Am I asking you to give all that you've got to give, the whole kit and caboodle, your home, your car, your bank account? No, of course I'm not. But give your compassion freely, bravely. Meet pain with comfort. Lay yourself bare of preconceived notions, and like our reading from Thomas, trample those ideas which keep you from connecting under your feet like little children. Then you will see the Son of the Living One, and you will not be afraid. Strip yourself of the costumes of identity, yours and others, and let go of what you think you know. Then see the world through new eyes. Right is might. Remember, you have 23 days left to volunteer mom or dad hugs at a pride event near you. To see each person there as a part of you and love them as a parent to a child. Yes, you may encounter people who have judgments against people at these pride events. Love them too. Remember Muhammad Ali and the Buddha? The Buddha didn't fight. He laid and counted himself out, declaring Ali the winner. Let the haters hate. Love them anyway. Again, commit this to memory. It is a very, very powerful compass to guide you through life. Right is might. What is right? What is always right? Love. Only through love will oneness be revealed. Not through justified action or righteous judgment. That is one of humanity's most persistent oxymorons. Righteous judgment. Only through loving fearlessly can we lift up our vision from the dry bones and the slain and see that which neither slays nor is slain, Holmes says, and hear the grand march of the further evolution of our soul and the conscious union of the finite and infinite. And you have the rest of your lives to practice your mighty power of righteous love. Love boldly. Let no one put themselves outside of your loving care. You are beautiful. You are whole. You are enough. And you are never alone. Now go and tell the people of the world that they are too. Amen.